All right, I just wanted to show through charts how Intel, ticker symbol INTC, is a powerful example of the importance of positive news flow. So just quick review as to why Intel matters. Today, that's May 5th, Bloomberg reported that Apple's considering Intel to reduce its reliance on TSMC or TSM, ticker symbol TSMC. Company is Taiwan Semiconductor. And Intel soared another, as if it hasn't already soared enough, just over the last month, a little over a month. Intel soared 13%, 12.9% to another all-time high. Now, all of this has kind of been written on the wall, and Intel is definitely going to be the biggest misses of all for me this year because Intel was actually on my shopping list, but I only traded in and out of it. But let's take this all the way back. Just remember why this rise is so incredible. I noted way back, in fact, it was a year ago, on April 25th, 2025, that Intel had last traded at that price, which is $18 or so, in September of 2010. So just in the span of a year, Intel has gone from $18 to 108. So it's almost increased. What is this? 8x or so? No, not 8x. 5 to 6x. And that's just in the span of a year. So it has gone from a price it hadn't seen since 2010, which is now, back then, it was 15 years ago, to now all-time highs. And in fact, it's well above its all-time high. So let me just briefly, one other thing. If you're chasing this one, and I don't blame you if you chase this one, I don't like chasing stocks. I think particularly Intel could be good for the long term. Its valuation is extremely high. But if you are into chasing, and I am not, and I'm not recommending chasing, I would stop out at the low of today, the intraday low, which is about 99. Okay. Actually, that's 100. So Intel gapped perfectly above that $100 hurdle. So if it closes below that 100 point, you can expect me to declare that this upward run is over, at least for the short term. But I'm not going to chase Intel. I'm still in buy the dips mode, even though the stock has not been nice and granted any kind of real good risk reward dip. Okay, so very quickly, let's go through this journey of good news that has basically convinced me that Intel was a good play for this year. And it's also something that should have convinced me just to buy it and stick with it. Okay, back here on, I think this was August 14th, the US announced it may take a stake. Intel popped 7.4%. Over here, it was September 18th, NVIDIA bought $5 billion worth of stock at 23.28. I mean, imagine the return that NVIDIA got on this. What is that now? It's almost worth $20 billion now for the company. I mean, I know it's pocket change for them, but still, what a great return. If you just bought with NVIDIA, right? Who wouldn't buy alongside NVIDIA? Well, I did, but I didn't stick with it. Then there was this question. Now, the thing that surprised me about today's run-up for Intel is that the Apple partnership has been telegraphed for quite some time. So I kind of assumed that it was, in a sense, priced in, but of course, apparently it wasn't. So we got first news of a potential partnership with Apple back on September 25th, 2025. And then shortly after that, there was discussions to add AMD as a foundry customer. And so you can see here, right, already just in last summer and September, all this positive news flow had given Intel new life off of that 15-year low and created positive momentum. And it even hurdled this. You can see how critical this line was. This is the close that Intel had. Let me just zoom in here. This was the close Intel had on August 2nd. You see how important technicals can be? The stock perfectly hurdled on that NVIDIA news. It fell back because, the stock is overextended well above this line, which is called the upper Bollinger Band. And look at this, just perfect. 1 day down, 2 days down, and buyers stepped right in at this important support. What is that important support? That's the close that Intel had before the big 26% post-earnings drop that really ignited Intel's bearishness big time. I'm not going to go back there now because I want to focus on the positive news flow. All right, so now let's keep going. Now there's more discussions about a potential Apple and Intel partnership. That sent the stock up 10.2% that day, and that was November 2025. Okay, so that was progress. That was the news headline of the day. And then we had this interesting drop on earnings. It looked like Intel's run was finally done. Stock was going to calm down. It plunged 17% post earnings, and then guess what happened? 3 days later or so, NVIDIA says, hey, we're looking to shift. Again, these were headlines. I don't know if this was ever confirmed. We're looking to shift 2028 chip production to Intel, and the CFO bought $250,000 in shares. Again, I love following insiders. Intel promptly popped 11%. Again, this was a clear signal. Intel didn't get close to the 50-day moving average support line, and it zoomed from there. All right, let's keep it moving. Now, what really fooled me here, even though, again, I had Intel as my buy list for 2026, Intel proceeded. After this big disappointment, I thought maybe I was not quite correct that Intel would be the play of the year. 17% post-earnings loss is pretty serious, and it means the market has soured on a name. That's typically what happens. But this NVIDIA news and then finally the CFO news seem to flag yet another run-up to come, and an epic one at that. But what fooled me is that Intel basically went nowhere all the way into April. Into the end of March. And of course, the war against Iran dominated headlines in March. But check this out. This is something I did not give credit to. But again, this is important technicals. I'm going to draw a rectangle over March. While the rest of the market was selling off, Intel was consolidating. All right, this deserves a green line. Intel was consolidating. That was another very positive sign. And so if I had been following this very closely, that would have meant that as soon as Intel broke out above that price consolidation area, which is here, this was a buy. Yes, the stock was overextended because it's above the upper Bollinger Band, but that was a very bullish sign. And then once again, after it jumped over the previous high that was pre-earnings, so that was this pop, that was another buy signal. Again, it would require a little bit of chasing. And what I like to do is no regret buys. So buy a little. If the stock comes in as I want it to, then I could buy more and have a bigger position. But if it never comes back, at least I have a little bit of a position. And I didn't even do the no regret buy at this point. All right, let's keep following along. So Intel had a much better luck with earnings. You can see right here on April 23rd, that was the day it reported earnings. It stalled out right below its all-time high. So this meant that it was a big, big moment for Intel, and it delivered like nobody's business, 23.8% jump for earnings. This was on April 24th, 23.6% post-earnings jump, and the stock has barely paused ever since then, okay? And given this momentum, given this trail, I suspect that the news flow is going to continue to be good. And if for some reason some bad news flow comes for Intel, I am going to remember this entire journey of good news that I just reviewed for you. Intel is bullish. Yes, it's very expensive, but it is a stock to buy on the dips. And I can only hope to get a nice good risk reward dip, say to the 20-day moving average, which is the dash line. That would take it back to say about 77 or so. That's just, I can't see that happening, but that's what it would take to get a very good risk reward line. All right, if you have any questions on this, put them down below in the captions. Subscribe if you want more content like this. And of course, like and share this content so the algorithm knows what's up. Thanks a lot, everyone, for checking this out. This has been Dr. Duru with The Market Breadth on 122. Take care.